I've had some questions about the theological textual analysis. First, just let me remind you, it's due at 11:59 on Sunday evening. Anything that's late will suffer a grade penalty, so please get it in on time. A couple of general comments just about writing assignments. The first thing is stay within your word limit. It will cost you if you go over, and the reason is that not that I don't want to read more. I do. I like reading, and I like a lot of my great ideas for my own work and my own sermons and stuff comes from student papers. So it's not that I don't want to read or grade what you write. It's that writing is a discipline, and shorter is always harder. That may not seem true, but at the graduate level it is, because you are being asked to put together a lot of content in a very short space. And really, the TTA is quite a bit of space relative to what you'll be asked to do in the final paper. Final paper, you're going to be expected to have quite a few sources, and you're going to be interacting with them, and you only get 3,500 words. You can take the theological textual analysis, the TTA, and you can use it as almost like a little bit of a dry run for how you interact with a source. And what I mean by that is you're going to have to take an entire book, right? 250 to 300 pages, and you're going to have to summarize the major theme or themes of that book in 300 words. That is a very, very small space to engage an entire text. And yet, that's one of the most valuable skills you have in grad school. So after your introduction, you're going to have 300 words. And in those 300 words, you are going to tell me in no more than two sentences first, what is the argument of this book? Every book that you are encountering, with few exceptions, sometimes books that have multiple essays, it's a little harder to gather. But even those, even books with multiple essays, if you look in the introduction, you will get a sense of what the book is setting out to accomplish. That could be anything. It could be this text argues that the true basis of the church is the use of sacraments. I don't know, whatever it is. But every single book can be summarized in no more than two sentences. When you, I know this, I work with book editors, and they all say to a person, the goal of when you're writing, you have to be able to summarize everything that you're doing in one sentence. If you can do that, then you're able to corral all of your ideas. You're able to corral all your arguments, and they all point in the same direction. One thing that you're trying to do. Every single book does this. N.T. Wright will have a book on resurrection of the Son of God, and that book, the argument of that book will be that the Christian proclamation of resurrection, is both continuous and discontinuous with Jewish tradition and Greco-Roman traditions of resurrection or life after death, something like that. I mean, that's it. That's the book, and that book's like 500, 600 pages, or something ridiculous. But that's it. That's the whole book, and everything else is supporting that. In 300 words, which is actually longer than you need, I am asking you to say what is the argument of this book, and then maybe one or two or three themes, big themes, that are woven in and out. Okay? The three big arguments that go to prove that point. So this Resurrection of the Son of God by N.T. Wright demonstrates that the Christian proclamation of Jesus' resurrection is both continuous and discontinuous with Jewish and Greco-Roman notions of the afterlife. That's the book. That's one sentence. And then the rest of your 300 words are, three major supporting arguments. N.T. Wright reviews the literature of Jewish of the Old Testament. N.T. Wright reviews the Old Testament and demonstrates that the Jews had these three notions of afterlife. Then Wright surveys Second Temple literature, Second Temple Jewish literature from just before and contemporaneous to the life of Jesus, and demonstrates that Jewish views of the afterlife have changed in these three ways. There you go. And then Greco-Roman, thirdly, Wright surveys Greco-Roman literature from the second century BCE to the 1st century CE, and demonstrates that Greco-Roman notions of the afterlife are doom. At the end, Wright shows that the Christian proclamation embedded in the New Testament and carried on through the apostolic preaching in the 1st and 2nd centuries CE is both continuous with these elements of those three groups and is discontinuous in these three ways, indicating that something unique and probable did in fact take place with the resurrection of Jesus. That's 300 words. That's the whole book. That's it. That's the book start to finish. You've nailed it. The next section of your theological textual analysis is 700 words, in which you, quote, critically engage with the arguments from that first 300 words, either affirming them with reasons, developing reasoned objections, or providing reasoned qualifications. An example might be, Wright characterizes Old Testament or Hebrew Bible notions of the afterlife in these three ways. However, if one looks at Psalm whatever, or this quote from Job, or one sees that it is possible that Wright has ignored this element of dualism or whatever, or a physical or a body and a bodiless afterlife, and so Wright may be overstating his case. That would be an objection to something that Wright did. You might otherwise say Wright is airtight in his characterization of Greco-Roman notions of the afterlife. It is surprising how far removed the Christian proclamation is from Greco-Roman notions, which would have been so prevalent, and we know are from the literature of the period and from the New Testament itself. For example, the story of Lazarus shows us that whatever. That would be like an affirmation of something Wright does with a possible qualification, explaining why it's right, why it's good. This is critical engagement. You're taking the arguments made in the book and you're expanding on them, disagreeing with them, showing why they're good, why they're bad, and then kind of developing some engagement, some criticism of the text. You're not just reporting on what Wright says, that's 300 words, but 700 words of saying, yes, N.T. Wright, no, N.T. Wright, or yes, kind of, N.T. Wright. Those are your three things. If that's a challenging notion for you, you really need to be, it needs to be your bread and butter in graduate school. Master's level engagement with texts, it feeds on this sort of engagement. I might recommend to you the book, if this is challenging or new for you, I might recommend the book They Say, I Say. It's a very, very clear, very succinct explanation of how graduate level engagement with sources works. Accurate, succinct reporting on what the big ideas are and how they're developed. That's 300 words in your TTA. And then critical engagement. Yes, they're right. No, they're not right. They're kind of right, and here's why. That's 700 words of your TTA. That's a total of 1,000 right now, and the TTA, the assignment, is supposed to be about 1,250 words, leaving 250 words. If you're wondering what to do with those 250 words, an introduction and conclusion situate the text in a tradition of scholarship, such as the Doctrine of Atonement, Pentecostalism, Reformed tradition, Free Church tradition, Baptist tradition, whatever, doctrine of election, doctrine, theological anthropology, whatever it is, ecclesiology, and describes its value for other researchers and the church. So your intro might say, N.T. Wright's Resurrection of the Son of God is an entry into historical work on Christian origins. Wright is Anglican, writing from a broadly Reformed perspective, but only in the broadest sense. As such, his work may be colored by this, and this from the Reformed tradition, or Augustinian tradition, however you want to characterize N.T. Wright. And Wright is writing both to almost an apology or apologetic work against those who say that the Christian proclamation of the resurrection is ludicrous, or simply copying some other previous Jewish or Greco-Roman notion of resurrection. Moreover, Wright is pushing for a reconfiguration of Christian theology to re-engage embodiment and the importance of a bodily physical resurrection. And then in the conclusion, you'd say the value for us is right gives us a comprehensive and exhaustive account of the literature from Hebrew Bible all the way up through 2nd century CE or whatever. Moreover, right firmly and expertly demonstrates that the New Testament proclamation of resurrection is fundamentally embodied, fundamentally physical, and that any proclamation of the afterlife that is truly Christian will be in keeping or in continuity with this primitive kerygma, whatever. The point is, at the beginning, situate tell me where the author is coming from, and what specific aspect of theology the book is addressing, and then at the end describe this is what its value for is, both for academics and also for people in the church. My congregation could benefit from this, that, or the other thing. In general, please try to avoid the first person, I, we, us. Rather, be as descriptive as possible. In fact, as much as you can, make the subject, just as I was doing in my my description of N.T. Wright, make the subject the author and the author's work. So the more that you can say, Moltmann, Moltmann's ecclesiology is X, Y, and Z. In this text, Moltmann demonstrates that good ecclesiology is da 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 da. Make it about what you're talking about, not about your feelings, your opinions. I do care about feelings and opinions, but the value added for your graduate level work is to demonstrate that you are operating at the level of argument rather than the level of your own personal feelings. It's a good practice to be able to accurately and charitably describe what someone else says, and to argue on purely rational, evidence-based grounds. Even though that's not how human beings think, and even though no one really operates in a coldly, purely rational way, it's a good practice to develop your argumentative skills in this way. So please, by all means, the reason I ask you to avoid I, me, we, us language is because I want all of your writing to focus on the subject, the author that you're engaging, and the text that you're engaging. So that's it. That's your 1,250 words. Those are some tips, some advice. If you still have further questions for clarification, please let me know, and maybe I'll make some supplemental videos based on questions that you may have.